since the previous festive season. Now, releasing the statistic, the Transport Minister, the department announced that 1,714 people died on the country's roads during the festive season. Government now plans to elevate traffic crimes from Schedule 3 to 5 to hold those offenders accountable. The Transport Minister, Dipuo Peters, has blamed most of the holiday road deaths on drunk driving, speeding and the reckless attitude of motorists.
One of the things that were picked up in terms of the report that we were releasing yesterday is that more than 70% of the causal factors is actually human factors. And if you look at human factors, you look at people speeding, you look at people drinking and driving, you look at people driving with whilst using a cell phone, but also you have other factors like environmental factors. We had serious inclement weather in this period. We had challenges related to some parts of our country where the roads have been eroded, but that was just about 12%. And the vehicle factors was also one of the problems, where we had faulty brakes, unroadworthy vehicles. But when it comes to human factors, I'm telling you, liquor and speeding has been the main cause.
Yeah. So, Minister, would you agree with me that the poor state of South African roads are a contributing factor to the road carnage, that the government needs to invest more on road infrastructure?
Government is investing more on road infrastructure. I'm sure your own footage showed the type of roads that we have on the national network. We have a grant of about 10 billion rand per annum, which we give to provinces for provincial road maintenance. We're saying 40% of that must be used to deal with potholes, but we have seen big challenges. We've got a network that is the 10th largest in the world. 750,000 kilometers of network. About more than 30% of those roads, which are under SANRAL, are in very good condition. About 60% of our roads are in fair condition. That means they can still be used, but they need maintenance. And the other about 20% are in very bad condition. We know it is in the rural areas, we know it is in our municipalities, but we're looking at that and addressing that. You know the investment that we're making with Moloto Road, you know the investment we're making on the R61 in the Eastern Cape, the N2 and many others. Those are part of the road safety strategies intervention with regard to the engineering.
Now, you heard the Transport Minister, Dipuo Peters, there, that has expressed deep concern over the 5% increase in the road fatalities during the 2016-2017 festive season. That's compared to the same period in the previous year. There's also skepticism around the efficiency and the effectiveness of the country's road safety campaigns following the Minister's announcement of the festive season road deaths. As you heard there, 1,714 people lost their lives on South African roads over the festive season. That's 45 people per day. Now, to analyse the situation and to give us a way forward, we are joined by the Chief Executive Officer of the Road Traffic Management Corporation, the RTMC, Advocate Makhosini Msibi. A very good morning to you, Advocate, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis, and good morning to the viewers too.
Some suggest that we should declare South Africa a war zone with a road death toll. What is your comment to that?
Oh, well, Elvis, no war and no amount of tension can result in 1,714 people dying within a space of a month. So naturally, this is disastrous and obviously caused by the attitude of our drivers, which is very recalcitrant. And indeed, people are blinding in their eyes and closing their ears to the messages that we are talking to, but causing mayhem and carnage in the country.
Now, we are going to talk about this attitude of our drivers because that's a very important point. It is something that hasn't changed over many years. In fact, it seems like it got worse. What is the department or RTMC doing to maybe change that in South Africa?
Well, we're bringing forth a number of interventions, Elvis. We had first mobilized, communicated and engaged. If those strategies are not working, then we need to begin to up the bar. In upping the bar, we are now considering and bringing forth amendments in terms of the legislation to look at the consequence management and the penalties that must go with the attitude as well as the behavior. Key to those are the amendment of the reclassification of our Schedule 3 offences to Schedule 5. What do we mean by that? We're looking at a two-pronged approach. One will be the issue of the bail. You'll know that in terms of Section 59 of the Criminal Procedure Act, if I'm arrested, a commander at the police station has a discretion to can give you a bail so as to appear later in court. But what we are saying, in the reclassification, let's keep them behind bars, let them go and make a formal bail application in court in terms of Section 60, but at the very same time, in the reclassification, we're allowing you to spend 7 days behind bars and come forth for a bail application. That's one element. But we're also,
so you're not being released. You will stay in jail until you make that application.
The same process that goes when it goes to Schedule 1 and Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 offences, where you would then make a formal bail application after 7 days. So we're then beginning to say that will be one of the deterrents. But second to that, it's a minimum mandatory sentence that we are calling for, to say if you are then arrested and convicted for either reckless, negligent driving or drunken driving, let's have a 2-year mandatory sentence. Spend 2 years behind bars. Whether you're getting 10 years, let it not be suspended immediately. Go through the jail time. But one of the issues that we are also talking to is the cancellation of the driver's license. Because we all know that a driver's license is not a right, but you have just been given a privilege. So people behave as if they've got the right on the driver's licenses on our roads. So these are the issues that we are now beginning to bring. But remember, they are coming after a long engagement, persuasion, and pleading. So this is the last resort that we have to get into.
So talking about that, Advocate, we are conducting a poll today to talk to us about this attitude that drivers should have and what should be the minimum sentence. And Eben, you're standing by there with that poll for us.
Yeah, so of course, the one that caught all the headlines is the call for tougher sentences. I think, Advocate, you can understand that. Now, we've broken it down to one thing. 15 years for drunk driving. That's what it comes down to at the end, to kind of make sense to the viewers. 44% think it's too harsh. 24% say it's a good thing. 32% say it's long overdue. So those that are for it are 56%, and those that are against it, 44%. Are you concerned that people think it might be a little bit too harsh to hand out tougher sentences for drink drivers?
Well, Eben, let's begin to look at the issue. What about a family who has lost a breadwinner?
Yes.
A child that is gonna be without a parent for the rest of his life because of your attitude, because of your action. Is it too harsh? What about those families? Because this is the point that we are saying as South Africans. Let's take this issue to the open.
Yeah.
Because how many millions of South Africans have lost husbands, have lost wives, have lost parents, have lost sons? Minister says yesterday, somewhere in the rural area, a mother is sitting in agony because he expected a child to have gone just through tertiary, got employed last year, bought a car in December, but he couldn't make it home.
Yeah. I think sometimes we sometimes on the roads we don't realize how our actions impact the lives of others indefinitely at times. And what you're telling us is that it cannot be too harsh if you think about it. If you think about the fact that how many parents lose their children or children lose their parents and those lives are changed irrevocably. How do we get buy-in though for this kind of thing? Or do you think it's the time for getting buy-in is over? It's a time to make examples of people?
We're going to follow the legislative process, but at the very same time, you will concurrently be engaging the public. I mean, there has been a clearing call for quite a long time, people saying, let's get tougher on this situation. I will indicate to you how South Africans then begin to behave. Even on this issue of the fraud and corruption, you find very educated people going to buy driver's licenses. People are just lazy to go through the motion, get the proper driver's licenses. We're shocked when we're asking somebody about the double barrier line. A person believes that the double barrier line is just a decoration on the road. It has no meaning. Now it then tells you the attitude, it tells you the extent that our road users have gone to cause mayhem on our roads.
Advocate, now the death toll so far, what are some of the most contributing factors to that toll that we've seen at 17414?
Well, top on the list, it's the human behavior, human conduct. That's one. It's the most fundamental one. The vehicle roadworthiness accounts for about 10%. And you can then begin to say, collectively taking all the percentages, the 90% or above 75% accounts for human behavior. So if you deal with 75% of human behavior, then this figure of 1,714 might have come down to about 500, which we don't say it's an acceptable figure, because to us, one death is a death too many. We want to get to a point where in South Africa we have a 0 death rate, as other countries have done. We know it's going to take us some time, but we are now prepared, we are resilient, we are very, very adamant that we're going to get to that level. This is the time, and the time is now, that we begin to declare war on our roads.
Just very shortly and very briefly, there's also the challenge of testing stations where people buy driver's license, we are told. What is the situation there and the strategy moving forward?
Well, now we can declare that we have been doing these investigations for a year. We now know what is happening, who our victims are, and what we're going to be dealing. Soon, we'll be pouncing on them. And that's the issue that we're then saying. We'll be cancelling a number of driver's licenses. We'll be arresting a number of one of our own. We'll be arresting a number of the public, because it takes two to tango.
Yes.
It's not only our traffic officers that are corrupt. You have the corruptor and the corruptee relationship. Now we're bringing them to the book. It's unfortunate that some of them, of the people, are very prominent people that will be pouncing on them, who got licenses irregularly and not through the proper processes.
Advocate, I thank you so much for your time and good luck for the year ahead.
Thanks ever so much, Elvis.
Now that was the Chief Executive Officer of the Road Traffic Management Corporation, Advocate Makhosini Msibi, joining us here. It's going to be tough out there for you that receive your driver's license under cloudy conditions.